Hey everybody, welcome to the In All Things podcast. It's time to see God in everything. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of the In All Things podcast. My name is Mitch Frost, and I'm back being joined alone with Pastor Steve. What's going on?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I feel tired. I don't know why. The weather's so much better and brighter, and I feel like I should be feeling...
And you had off from the well last night?
Yeah, but I was with both families all day, so
Yeah.
I'm just still feeling tired
Family
on a Monday
time
morning.
can be exhausting.
So, yeah, but how are you?
I always say good, so I'll change it up. I'll
Thank
say
you.
I'll
Finally.
say fair.
Finally.
I have a tooth issue, so I'm going to
Okay.
get that resolved at 1 o'clock today. So
That is the thing that's causing you to not say good.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. Is that okay?
No, it's fun.
Yeah.
It makes me laugh because every week you say, good, how are you? Really
Good. How are
fast.
you?
And
So
I'm like,
I
well,
was cognitive of that
Sure.
today to make sure I didn't give you the normal answer.
Nice.
There you go.
There
All right.
you go.
So,
It's been 2 weeks since it's just been the two
Yes.
of us at this table.
Mhm.
Last week was the ladies.
they did
Christy
an awesome
Johnson
job.
and
Awesome
Amy
job.
Shaw.
If you missed it, go back and watch
Yeah,
it.
seriously, if you haven't listened to that episode, whether you're a mom or not,
Yeah.
go listen to that because
Yeah,
it was
you
an
know,
awesome conversation.
It was really good. At the end, there was a list that she went over of, I think, like 30 moms she interviewed with things. And it's so funny. I'm sitting there like, I can't figure out what I want to do for my mom for Mother's Day. And I was listening to the podcast, and she went through the list. And one of the things sounded like she had talked to my mom because she said, wanting to have one-on-one time with my adult children is the most important thing to me. And it's hard because they're living busy lives and everything. And then Saturday, my son's doubleheader got rained out. And I texted my mom and said, hey, would you like to go out for brunch for Mother's Day? So we went to First Watch, and then we went to a store and drove around a little bit, spent several hours together, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And it made her day. I mean, that was my Mother's
There
Day
you go.
gift to her. And then I was talking to her about the podcast she listened to, and she said that was the very thing that she said.
Well, then
so
you must
I know
know your
her.
mom
I know
well.
her,
Yeah.
yes. And it was really good. So thank you, Christy and Amy, for helping me
Yeah.
to know what to do for Mother's Day.
There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been great. And then the week before that, we were with Anthony Rex,
Yeah,
and so that was a
right.
great conversation as well. So it's just been a while since
Yeah.
it's just been
Yeah.
the two of us sitting here. So, but today we're saying goodbye forever. No, I'm kidding.
It's been nice. Thank you.
No, but this is the last episode of our second season. That's what we call
Correct.
it, of the In All Things podcast.
Right.
And this is also the 30th episode we've recorded
Oh, that's
right
awesome.
now. So that's kind of
That's
funny
cool.
timing.
Why are we stopping? Let's tell people.
That I was actually going to bring that up. I get asked every once in a while of like, why do you guys take, breaks or whatever in the
Right.
middle of stuff? And my thing is, podcasts that I listen to, ones that I really enjoy, they take breaks as well. And kind of the point that I keep hearing is like, we don't want to talk just to talk. And
Right.
there comes a point where if we did this every single week, nonstop, the entire year, 52 weeks, odds are we'd have some conversations that were crappy, if I'm being honest. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
I-
And so I would rather go, 16, this is actually 17 episodes in a row, 17 weeks in a row,
Right.
and have really, really good conversations.
Right.
And then take some time to maybe listen more to our church and what do they want to hear, and take some time to give people to go back and listen to these episodes.
Correct.
'Cause the other side of it is if you could have some new listeners that show up and start getting into it and they say, you guys should talk about this.
Right.
I'm like, well, we did
Yeah.
that back in
Yeah,
the day.
I know.
So
Yeah, that's good. I've talked to a few of our dedicated listeners
Mm-hmm.
who are actually like 3 or 4 episodes behind. Or they may have listened to Amy and Christy, but they're, oh, no, I missed those last 3 you guys
Mm-hmm.
did. I need to go back and listen to them, and they love it, but they just haven't caught up. Life gets busy,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's natural too,
Yeah.
because like our small groups in our church, take a little breather. It's summer coming, and life changes, schedules change, gives us a break. But we enjoy this. We thoroughly enjoy it. But I think you've hit on a few really good things. And so the plan is to come back in like mid-August.
yeah,
Or
we're
early
gonna take a
August,
couple
sometime
months
in
off
August.
and come back. Yep.
Yeah, when school starts getting back, everybody's back in session. We'll have plenty to do. You never know. We might throw one out there in the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
Some things come up that we
Yep.
might want to talk about.
Yep.
We might have one. But
Never know.
Never know.
But yeah, it's just funny. I was talking to somebody yesterday that it was kind of my first time meeting him. He's been coming. Him and his wife have been coming to our church for a couple weeks, and he was telling me like, I've been listening to podcasts for months, and we've only been coming for a couple weeks. And I'm like,
So
that is so cool. Like,
so cool.
I've never heard of that specific instance before, but
Yeah.
I'm like, that's awesome.
I don't
like,
know if I've told you some of the people that I've met at Guest Central that have told me, yeah, I've been listening to you guys for a while before. I mean, like, wow, okay. So
pretty
don't
cool.
know. But yeah, this is kind of like we said at the beginning when we started it 30 episodes ago. that.
The longest definitely that we've done something like this at Sycamore.
No,
I'd say.
no, and we're not feeling like it's not wearing out or anything yet. So it's just getting started. I still like we got a long way to go, a lot to learn.
Lots of people that we've thrown out there that we want to have conversations with on here that we haven't gotten a chance to yet.
Yeah, but I think that, giving everybody something in the middle of the week, something else to think about, chew on, is good.
Yeah.
So
And so we're gonna do some things to kind of end our season here.
Okay.
But before we do that, let's just give, like we usually do, a recap of Sunday, a recap of maybe last week. It can be personal stuff, it can be church-wide stuff, it can be worldwide stuff. Wherever you want to start with that. But go ahead.
Well, first thing I guess that was on my mind is it was Mother's Day. It was Sunday, and good crowds. I don't know the final numbers, but I mean, it's good to feel like we're back to close to normal, and that's nice. And a lot of different family groups. You see like kids with their parents that aren't always at church, some of those like college age students. So that's cool. We had Kona Ice here, and the lines were so long for that. I heard about during the 9:30 how crowded the toddler and preschool rooms are, which is cool. It means their church has got a lot of young families in it. So a lot of good things like that. Thought the worship was great. Just enjoyed the day all around. So
yeah.
How about you?
Davi's raising his hand.
Yesterday we had 110 kids.
110 kids.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean yes. Usually kids are around 80 in number. Wow. 110 kids. I know, I think your wife got called back to ask to stay to help at 11. That's crazy. You think about, I knew at 9:30 there was 20 preschoolers in one room. That's a lot in one room.
Yeah.
And so if anything we may have done wrong in building the next gen, we may have not made the preschool room and the toddler room big enough. But that's a good problem to have. I love seeing the foyer alive, seeing just that stuff going on. And so that was good. I'm trying to think what else on the weekend. The rain's been going on a lot. So in my life, as a baseball coach, it's been kind of a bummer. But this week, the weather is fantastic.
Yep, absolutely.
Like 70 today, but 80s the rest of the week. And there's no rain in the forecast.
Doesn't look like it.
So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Mother's Day was great. It's funny because it kind of ebbs and flows because people ebb and flow, but like sometimes before 9:30 service, first people are showing up at like 9:20 or 9:15,
Right.
Yesterday, I was standing outside with the greeters and it was like 9:05 and there was like all these people coming in. I'm like, man, people are excited to be here this morning. So that's always cool. And
something has changed. For 9:30, people are getting here early. 11 o'clock, people are still. I know Jared gets up there at 11. It's like, oh my goodness, is anybody coming today? But by 11:15, pretty good.
Right.
But 9:30 won the day yesterday. It was, I guess, people wanted to go out with their moms.
Yeah.
And so more people that are 11 o'clock came at 9:30. But yeah. But that
good
was good. Yeah. Anything else going on in your life this weekend?
Man, this past weekend?
Oh, yeah.
I got to speak at a youth conference in Lancaster at Victory Hill Church. They were part of our one winter. Close friends with the youth pastor. He's kind of stepping out into worship pastor, but that guy. And so he reached out to me a couple months ago and got to speak to a girls and guys conference. I got to speak to the guys that day, and that was fun.
Right.
Something different. Doctor Strange came out, so that's another thing. So no spoilers, obviously. Would never do that.
Being a big Marvel fan,
so most people probably know
weekend.
that's out there, and if you don't want it to be spoiled, then go see it before it's going to be spoiled.
Right,
so I'm trying to think. I don't think there's really any other big things going on right now.
No.
But we're starting to rev up for summer with student ministry. So
have we talked about the fact that you have an intern this summer?
I don't know if we have.
But
not,
he'll be here soon.
Yeah,
2 more weeks. 2 weeks he'll be here. Yeah. So maybe we'll have to do we'll do a summer podcast with him.
That'd be cool. Something different.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've never really done that before. I mean, you guys have had interns.
Oh, you were an intern. We had Kyle years ago as an intern, but we want to get into a rhythm of that every year, of bringing in an intern from Christian college, somebody going into ministry, for their benefit and for ours. I think it's really cool. And so I'm really excited about that. I know you got a big plan ahead for him. So looking forward to that.
So exciting stuff. We're getting into the summer.
Camp. Sign up for camp is revving up now.
Yep. Sign-ups are coming in. Like this is
earlier than
definitely the most we've had at this point.
Because it's free.
Because it's free.
But I'm
yeah.
excited about that.
Yeah, definitely. So lots of exciting
Yeah,
things.
very good.
So here's what we're going to do. Because it's our 30th episode, and we're not going to be back until August.
Oh boy.
What
I have
we're
no
going to
idea
do
what you're going to say now.
is I'm going to read the titles of every episode we've done up until this point. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to read the title of the episode, and I want you to react and share anything you remember from that episode. We're going to go up until now,
Okay.
and then we're going to have a conversation about some things, but this part is important in order to do that.
All right.
Okay? So just tell me what you remember from these different things. All right, here we go. Season 1, Episode 1, Spider-Man and the Trinity.
I remember that was our first one, and we were figuring out our format, and it was a current event special. Basically, you were hitting on like 7 or 8 different things that were going on in the world and just getting my reaction to them. I remember Devi put in video clips and pictures for everything, and it was like, these are going to take 10 to 15 hours of production every week.
Right.
And it was interesting. It was fun, but I enjoyed that. That was a good start.
That was a good one. This is September of 2021.
Yes.
That's when we started.
Okay.
Second episode was Weaponizing Fear. You remember that one at all?
I mean, I remember that title is familiar.
Uh-huh.
Oh man, what was it
I think
about?
that was our 9/11 episode. I think it was when you were telling us about living
wow.
around DC, and there was something about the shooter.
There was a shooter.
Yep,
Yeah,
and we were talking about all those things.
All right.
And then we were talking about how sometimes this idea of fear kind of becomes like they kind of force you to feel a certain type of ways. So that was our second episode. I haven't read these through either, so I'm trying to remember all of them as well. Bomb threats, God's grace, and children today.
Wow. I remember talking about what you went through with that bomb threat at Pick North years ago, and there must have been some others.
It was because the canal thing was happening where all the places in canal had
those
bomb threats.
restaurants were being shut down and everything, and God's grace and what?
And children today. So I think that's when we talked about the disappearance of childhood and the phenomenon of people being forced to grow up earlier.
Yep.
I think
because of bomb threats and things like that.
Franklin Graham, Cristiano Ronaldo, and the power of influence.
Oh, well, we talked about influence, didn't we?
Yep.
We didn't. You quizzed me on lists of trying to come up with the most influential people in different categories, and that was some failures and some successes for me.
Yeah, based on social media following, I think.
That's right.
Is what we did. Yeah, that was a good one. Dunk tanks, insecurities, and the trap of comparison.
Well, it was the weekend after we had done the dunk tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had that. That was your migraine weekend.
Oh, yeah.
I had to jump in and speak in youth that Sunday night. What was the other part of that?
Dunk tanks, insecurities, and the trap of comparison.
Oh, yeah, the comparison trap. I think maybe I'd done a message on that, too, that we were jumping off from, too, comparison trap, and how it's so. We talked about different pastors and all that that we look up to and how that is. Yeah. Man,
this is funny. Like, we've had so many different conversations about so many different things.
Is your idea to get people to listen to this and then want to go back?
Hopefully this is making you like,
oh,
that sounds good.
Oh, that sounds good. I want to go back. Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going. Roosters, lock-ins, and the disease of self-entitlement. What a good title. Jeez.
Who wrote that? Did you write that?
I'm trying to think of what rooster. I remember the rest of the conversation, but I don't remember talking about roosters in that episode. Do you?
I think you guys said it was one of your favorite places.
Oh, what are your favorite places? Okay. It wasn't. I don't think sometimes some of the titles include something that's very like a one-liner in the episode, but
and that was right after the lock-in. So we spent a little bit talking about that.
It was recap time, but the main point
and then
was
the disease of self-entitlement.
Yeah,
that was a good one.
Yeah, that was good.
Talking about how the church has become very self-focused, and if it doesn't serve me and make me happy, then it's not worth it. Was kind of the
consumer mentality of church and all that. Yeah.
I think it was when Roosters was having like an outage of mac and cheese bites.
Mac and cheese bites were out. Yeah, all the supply chain issues.
And this was we were recording on Wednesdays. It was like Wednesday morning.
Correct.
So there were some times where we had worked a couple of days before we'd record, and so we might have been talking about
We recorded
lunch,
on Wednesday. It didn't release to the following Monday.
Yeah. So it was
anyway,
different.
we changed.
Anyway, next one was our first guest. So it says part 1, a special guest, college education, and what people don't know about being a pastor.
That was Aaron Taylor.
Yep.
And we talked about the fact that of where we got our college degrees and how important they are and how unimportant they can be too. Yep. In the long run, you learn way more by doing ministry than you do in college, but college is important. So we
Mm-hmm.
talked about that, and we talked with Aaron, and that was a 2-part. We did it in one recording, but we divided into 2, talking about ministry life,
Yep.
various aspects of your personal and private life, and what
Your
it's like.
family, your
Yeah,
wife,
the fishbowl
everything. Yeah.
idea of
Yeah.
people, watching you, and he was a church planner that we support, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a fun one. After that, we have Halloween, cancel culture, and the day we recorded a podcast live on stage.
I think
which
that was
another
the one
2
we
parts.
recorded live on stage.
I
I
would
think so.
assume based on the title.
Yeah, it was in front of the whole church.
It was on Halloween.
On Halloween it was Halloween fell on a Sunday,
Yep.
and we had a 9:30 and 11 o'clock. We had gathered questions. We had asked the church to submit, and we had a lot of questions. And you picked the ones. I didn't know what was coming. You picked the ones that we would cover live on stage, and 9:30 and 11 were different.
Mm-hmm.
So just 2 different episodes being recorded. It was fun.
Yeah,
it was
it
fun.
was really, really different.
We're debating whether to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
People really liked it.
They
and,
did.
And there was lots of Jared saying no.
don't do it. Jared didn't like it.
But yeah, that was
Yeah, that was fun.
That was cool. That was
Yeah.
different. Next, we have Zeitgeist, Hot Topics, and the need to redeem the culture. I think that
That was a special guest, wasn't
that
it?
might have been with
That
Chase
was Chase.
Smith.
That was
yeah.
Chase. Yeah.
Yep. So
Yeah.
one of my youth ministry professors was on. And yeah, I mean, we
Zeitgeist
talked
was a
about,
big word that he liked to use in your
Yes.
classes. So you brought that up with him.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that was a good one. We talked about I vividly remember him talking about, because the big saying in some churches is nothing is wasted, right?
Mhm.
And then he changed it to everything is redeemed, or everything's redeemable. Or
Redeemable,
something.
yeah,
We
yeah,
switched it
yeah.
a little bit, and that was a good one.
It was
That a
good. I mean,
one.
talking about how we use the culture in the church, and sometimes you can go too far with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a really good conversation. Yeah.
The one after that might be my personal favorite. We have Yellow Crocs, Truth or Myth about Gen Z and the digital world we live in. That's when I sat at this table with
I was not in
4
that
other
one.
students.
How does that make you
Oh
feel?
man, it was awesome. I loved that
That was
conversation
good.
so much.
That one was one of our most watched
Mhm.
and listened to.
Yeah.
Those guys did great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was just cool, because there was lots of things we talked about that older generations think about this generation, and we just talked about how that's not true, and in some ways it's true, and it was just, that was a fun one.
There was Lane, Sam,
Preston
Preston,
and Leah.
Yeah.
Yep,
That was good.
the 4.
Very good.
That was awesome. And Jared was stressed because that was the most people we've had at this
situation.
table.
Yeah. Mhm.
So then we have Chipotle for lunch, living a busy life, in the last episode of season 1. We were running out of ideas.
Did we not? Yeah, I don't remember what that was about.
This is why we take breaks in seasons, because we were talking.
That was-
we must have been talking about
was that
Chipotle.
like November?
Yep, that was
So we were
our
getting
last
ready
one.
to take a break for the holidays.
Yep,
I don't remember what we talked about.
me neither. So
It was
there
probably
you
just
go.
a summary of
End of the year and how Thanksgiving, Christmas.
our busy and what we had. We probably talked about a lot of that stuff, what we had coming, and worship night.
Makes
and
sense. Oh yeah, worship
Christmas.
night was like the
we
next
did talk
week.
a lot about the worship
Yeah.
night of
Yeah.
worship, and then Christmas and all that. So yeah,
There you go.
Yeah.
Then we moved into season 2, which is what we're finishing today.
January. Yeah.
The first one was Omicron, Spider-Man No Way Home, and fasting for 21 days.
Oh yeah. Well, we were launching that fast, and that was
Mhm.
really cool to talk about what people were doing for 21 days here in the church,
Mhm.
and Omicron was the new variant.
That was getting intense. I think.
Yeah,
in
well, that had a spike.
part,
Remember,
yeah.
we felt like
I
we were
was. That's the first
back.
time I had it.
You had it.
Yep.
You had moved. That was fun
Yep.
Uh,
Moved with COVID.
with COVID.
Yep.
Jared and I were the heroes. Came and helped you move.
Yep.
But it was crazy how that spiked, and the attendance was up, and then
Yeah.
and then yes.
And we started season 1 with Spider-Man, so we started season 2 with Spider-Man,
Yes.
because that movie just came out, and we were
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about that.
Oh yeah, that was amazing.
Man, that was a good
So
one.
that was cool.
Next one, Snowstorm, MLK Jr.'s legacy, and the problem of perspective. I do remember this conversation.
Yes.
We came in on Martin Luther King Day only to record, I believe.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah.
And yeah, that was a fun
You
one.
had a lot of good quotes for that one. I remember you were really
We
well
worked through his
prepared.
story pretty in depth.
Yeah,
and
some stuff
then-
that people didn't know. Or,
Uh-huh.
I mean, not a lot of people didn't know.
Yeah.
I should say I didn't know.
And then, yeah, at the end of it, we started talking about how there's a big problem when you assume that your way is the only way. And we got into the perspective. And that was a fun one.
That
I
was
liked
good.
that conversation. The next one we had was Oranges for Lunch, Spiritual Habits, and the Idea of Earning God's Love. Oranges for Lunch was because the fast was going on. I do remember this.
that had something to do with
And my wife said this was her favorite conversation that we've had in a long time.
What was the rest of it?
Oranges for Lunch, Spiritual Habits, and the Idea of Earning God's Love was the title of this one. It was in the middle of the fast. I remember that. Rediscovering the orange was the thing we said at the beginning of the conversation.
That was a joke.
Because we were fasting lunch. Most of us were.
Yeah, I remember saying it. Like, man, oranges are really good.
Yeah.
I forgot about them. But it's a lot of work peeling and all that. So, but yeah.
That was a good one.
The Idea of Earning God's Love. I don't know why we went there.
I think because we were talking about during that series at the church, the 167, we were talking about prayer and fasting and all these things. It was all
the spiritual habits.
And so we were talking about how those don't necessarily make God love you more. Was kind of the dilemma we talked about.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next, eating donuts. You brought donuts. The fast was over.
Yes,
I do remember that.
Yes.
And we got to see their butts because they stood in front of the camera, and not literally their butts, but
should we clarify that? Man, everybody's going. What episode number was
which one is that?
Which one is that? We got to go look at that one right now.
But anyway, eating donuts, R-rated movies, and where to draw the line in consuming entertainment.
R-rated movies goes along with that. Anyway,
that was a fun one.
Yeah.
We talked about alcohol. We talked about R-rated movies. We talked about music. We talked about how to know when the things that you're consuming are becoming too much.
Right.
And we ate donuts at the same time.
How they're affecting you. Yeah,
that was a good one.
Yeah.
And that one's pretty high in terms of watches and listens and whatnot.
Yep.
After that, we have Winter Storm, Jesus' Friends, and Our Circles of Influence.
It was the beginning of the Peopleology series, and we talked about the Jesus model of 3 and 12 and 70 and so forth, and that was a good one. Yeah,
that was fun. Lots of people loved the Circles of Influence conversation.
Well, that I think that title got a lot of interest because people searched that. Yeah,
that was good.
Yep.
One after that was our Valentine's Day special. We have flowers versus chocolate for Valentine's Day, and some wisdom on marriage and relationships.
Yeah, I was in your seat that day.
True.
And my dear wife was over here, and that was a highly watched one too. I think just because people like to hear from her and other people. Like it's cool to have the guests, and those always go very well. They have so far anyway. But we really enjoyed that conversation, and a lot of people have told us about what they got a lot out of that. So that was a lot of fun to do. We'll bring her back.
Yeah, definitely. she was highly rated, I guess.
Yes.
No, that conversation was awesome. That was a fun one, definitely to listen to. After that, we had Rainy Monday, coffee, and the idea of vulnerability that promotes proximity.
I don't think Rainy Monday and coffee had much to do with the conversation.
Talking about either of those
but
things.
I probably had this here with me.
It might have been pouring and we could hear it. That's very possible.
You needed coffee.
Yeah.
You don't drink coffee, but that Monday.
Oh, he said he could have.
I feel like I need coffee, and I usually don't.
Yeah.
Maybe that might have been
right.
it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So Rainy. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about the need because we were in the middle of peopleology still,
yeah.
and we were beginning to hit on the ideas of being vulnerable with the people close to you and what that means and all of that. So that was a good one.
Yeah.
After that, we had a challenger, an achiever, and the conversation about the Enneagram personality test.
Yes.
So that was when we finally had a conversation about the Enneagram.
Yes.
We waited so long to do it.
Yeah, we made it clear that we are not at all experts on that.
Right.
And you've read some books, and but we've taken tests and figured out kind of what we are and had a conversation. You went through the different ones, the 9 different ones, and we talked about each one a little bit.
That was fun. That was a good one. And something different. And I wonder if I'm curious if anybody took the test or
a few people told me because we people were asking me for links and
okay.
And we did give that out, and some people told me that they enjoyed that. So
we finally got Jared to take it. He's a 5.
No, he's not.
Christy took it for him.
That's right. He didn't want it. Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, that was a good one. Let's keep going. Brazil, Pickerington, and a conversation about a creative God. That
was the one with the V.
The feature with the V.
I was out on that one. You guys
were. I think that was when you were in Florida.
I was in Florida
with Barry, which is the next one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was good. Got to talk about how God is creative and the different ways that people can see creativity in themselves.
Yes.
That was a fun conversation. A Florida friend, U-Haul trucks, and a story worth listening to.
Oh, yes.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's Barry.
Yep. Yeah. Again, I was on your side there, and we talked, Barry and I, about his whole story, his journey of ministry, and then losing Laura, and then how God has blessed him, and now he's just got married maybe a month ago now, a little over a month.
Yeah.
And doing awesome. So
that was a good one.
Yeah,
that was. We went out to lunch with him afterwards, which was fun. He
Yeah.
sat in our staff meeting or something.
He did, yeah, like old times,
Yeah.
and then paid for our lunch.
Yeah,
so that was well worth it.
Yeah. One after that, we had swimming upstream, telling others about Jesus, and not being weird.
Yeah, that had a relation to some message that
Yeah.
I did.
I'm trying to think.
Was that still Peopleology?
I don't think so. What was the series after?
Challenge the norm.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, it was
Challenging the
beginning
Norm.
of
Yeah,
Challenge the
duh.
Norm. That's
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
was.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were talking
Yeah.
about, the is there a line between swimming upstream and, because
Yeah.
we are called to be different, and is there a line between
Where it
being
gets
different but not
So
scaring
weird that
people
nobody
away?
wants to deal
Right.
with you. Yeah.
Right.
There's
So
those
that
weird
was
Christians.
that was
yeah.
good. Next we have busy week, awesome Sunday, and the challenges of a post-Christian generation. So this was the week after Refuel, and that was I basically just read through my notes from Refuel because I got to lead a breakout about
Oh yeah.
the post-Christian world.
That's
that we live
right.
in.
That was really good.
that was
Yeah,
a fun
and
one.
It was fun.
I think we had refuel and then women's conference and then
It was-
things in the same.
Yeah.
It was back
a
to back.
busy
It was a
week.
back to back week of big events.
We recorded at a weird time, and
It was
Yeah.
crazy. That was the one Jared was begging us not to do one that week
yeah.
because he was like, we got too much going on.
True.
But
might
we
have
did
skipped
it
one.
anyway.
No, we skipped one.
Did we skip a week?
I think
We
so.
did skip one, but I don't know. Anyway, busy weeks.
After that, we have Sunday is coming, social issues, and compassion fatigue. So I don't know what social issues we got into. I don't know if I fully remember that, but I do remember the conversation of
About compassion fatigue,
because we
yeah.
talked about how
Yeah.
Everybody cares about everything, and if
And
you
how much
don't,
can you
how much can you give?
And then
you know?
people get frustrated when you don't care about what they care about
Right.
enough.
So we had a conversation about how everybody is passionate about different things.
That's right.
And that's beautiful and that's awesome.
Yes.
But I'm never going to speak to certain issues that I don't understand,
Yes.
but I can care about them and I can
There's a
learn
lot of
about
things that
them
we
and I
both,
can-
you and I both care about a lot, but there are a lot of things you care about that I don't care about.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that.
Yeah, I think we talked about baseball.
Yeah.
And how,
and
you're so
Marvel
passionate about-
movies.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
you're very passionate.
Right.
I mean, I care a little,
Right.
but
Yeah, that was a good one. We're getting close to the end here. We have Easter every day, discouraging times, and taking baby steps.
I remember Easter every day. We talked a lot about how, I mean, the Easter story isn't just for Easter. That's what Christianity is all about, the resurrection. So
Yep.
I don't know. Remember the rest of it, the baby steps.
I think it was just starting in your faith and
Mm-hmm.
going like every Sunday we come in and we feel excited and then
Right.
we don't know where to start and we kind of just talked about we'll just start
Okay.
doing something. I think
Okay.
that's where we were with that one.
Okay.
And then we have Strongholds Weekend, Be One, Make One, and the Source of Identity. That was with Anthony
with
Rex.
Anthony, yeah.
Definitely go back and listen to that one. And then last week, awesome guest,
Yes.
Challenges of Motherhood, and Happy Mother's Day.
Okay.
So there we
Yeah,
go.
Good. Yeah, very good. Wow.
That is every episode that we've done so far. Don't
Oh,
know
the-
what today's going to be titled. We'll come up with that at some point. But
The 30th episode special.
but yeah, how do you feel reading through those titles and thinking about everything that we've talked about so far, starting in September of last year, and now it is May of 2022. So how do you feel?
Accomplished. I don't know. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground. I feel like we've had some really good conversations. There's a few that I look back, I hate that when I'm done and we go away from it. And I think, man, I could have said this or I could have said that.
Yeah.
I wish we would have gone this direction with it.
Yeah.
And a few of them, I know we both have walked away. And sometimes there's been ones that I've walked away not feeling great about. And then I've had a lot of positive comments about.
Yeah.
It's like sermons, And then there's times when I felt really good about some and nobody said a word. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, maybe I just enjoyed it or you enjoyed it. And we enjoyed the conversation more than anybody else did. So,
Right.
yeah.
For
And it's
sure.
hard because, we go back and look at the metrics of watches and listens, and some of them that it's surprising. It's like, why is that one so much more popular than others? And I think sometimes it's the week and what's going on in people's lives. So I hope talking about all these, if they listen to this episode, will encourage
Yeah.
some people to go back and check some out. That
Yeah,
apply
there you
to
go.
them. Yeah.
And with this gap of in between season 2 and whatever
Yes.
3 is going to be, you have plenty of time to go listen to all the ones that we just talked about. Get caught up and let us know maybe
Yeah.
what you're interested in for
Yeah,
more
I'd love to know
conversations.
that. I'd love to know which ones, appeal more. I mean, we can look at numbers and try to figure that out, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's have a little conversation on, are you feeling nostalgia right now?
I don't know. I think
No?
we got to get farther along than 30.
Yeah, before you
30
feel
is not,
nostalgia?
maybe 50.
Yeah.
And then
Then
100.
you're like, oh man.
Wow.
Yeah. So what things do make you feel nostalgia? Can you think about that? What types of things, or when's the last time you've
For
been
me,
like, wow,
personally?
I feel nostalgic right now?
One of the cool things on social media, Facebook particularly, is they do the pictures from this date in history. What do they call that? There's a
Memories.
Yeah, but there's something that where it shows you. So feeling nostalgia the other day. It was a picture of my two daughters, Tori and Lexi, when they both played softball. Lexi was in 8th grade at Ridgeview, and Tori was a senior at Central, and they both had their Tigers uniforms on. They had a game at the same day. They had the 4 fields together there, and they were there, and we got a picture of them together. And I was like, that was 8 years ago. And I sent that picture to them and to Sherry, and it's like, wow. Those type of things make me feel nostalgia when I think about how things have changed over time, but how long, like time just flying by like that. Those are types of things.
Yeah. I got to go to my 2 nephews' little soccer game a couple weeks ago. Yeah. And just I used to play at that field. Like that we used to play there, and being there and watching them play there for Chase, at least his first soccer game. Yes. And I started thinking about, man, I miss playing. Yes. Like I played for so long, and I just missed the team, and I miss the cleats, and I miss the wet grass. Like I just standing there on that Saturday morning, I was just like, man, this is awesome. Like I feel so nostalgic to that thing that was such a big part of my life. Movies are a big one. I don't know if you ever feel that way, but like I'll watch an old movie and I'm like, man, I remember this as a kid and loving every second of this.
Absolutely. Certain songs on the radio, like an old song, it'll just take me to a moment. Yeah. And I'll be like, that was dating myself. That was the cassette tape we got when we went on a trip, like when we were first married and we drove to New Jersey for somebody's wedding. That had just come out. And every time I hear a song, I think of that trip because we played it over and over and over and over. Yeah. So you know how that is, like that makes you nostalgic for sure. Yeah.
Well, I guess one of my favorite movies growing up was Shrek, the original.
Oh yeah.
VHS. I used to love to watch it. And apparently, I have no explanation for this, but my parents don't either. But you know the opening scene where he is bathing in
the mud? Yes.
The one part where the mud would pour on him like a shower would scare me. Not make me feel grossed out, but scare me. And it got so bad that I would like leave the room for that scene, and then I'd come back. But I loved the movie. Wow. And I don't know why, but just whenever I watch Shrek, I'm like, oh man, I remember, I don't know, all these feelings I had with this movie. I'm not still scared of that scene, just so everybody knows.
Speaking of movies, like now with my grandsons, with Chase and Miles, The Lion King was our favorite movie when Zach, my oldest, that was his first movie, and we wore that VHS out. Yeah. And now when I watch it with them on TV, it's like I know every word, and it like I hadn't watched it in 10, 15 years, and every line I know it because we watched it 100 times. Right. And it's a great, great, great movie, and the songs are great, the lines are great. I love how there's movies for kids though. They put stuff in there for adults to enjoy them. You know, it's awesome stuff. That's definitely nostalgia.
Yeah, and you mentioned it a second ago, but Marvel movies, part of the reason why I love them so much is because I grew up as a teenager as they came out. So I saw almost every single one in theaters with my friends. And so there's a piece of that of like, man, I remember when Iron Man 1 came out. I was talking to Amy Shaw. Her birthday was May 3rd. I remember that Iron Man 3 came out on May 3rd because we were so excited to go to the midnight premiere and see it. Like, and so those have a big role.
Memories are like that are awesome. Yeah.
And thinking about even, I mean, nostalgia is just such a good marketing scheme right now. If you think about all the things that companies do to kind of get you feeling nostalgic because they know it's going to sell. I think about, a couple of years ago when Pepsi and they started coming out with all the original cans. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
They did that big thing where they came out with original Mountain Dew and original Pepsi and all these old, and everybody loved it. And I think about there was an album that came out last year, Old Church Basement by Elevation Worship in Maverick City, and you said listening to that song, talking to Jesus and the way that's like almost him telling the story. You were like, there's so many parts in that song that were exactly the way that I was raised.
And even in the Old Church Basement, I think that's the song. There was all these bits of old songs, and it's like, oh my goodness, it makes me feel that. Yeah. Are you saying that maybe you're working on new church T-shirts? We should go back and use one of our old logos from 20 years ago.
I mean, that'd be kind of. We could probably do it in a cool way. But I mean, nostalgia just works super well right now. I think about Stranger Things. And how, it makes me laugh because I remember when I was in high school, just started dating your daughter, and I brought Stranger Things into your guys' home, and we watched it, and you guys loved it because of the bits of nostalgia and the soundtrack and all these things. And it makes me laugh so hard because people like you and your wife Sherry are watching a show about aliens or whatever they are, but it doesn't matter because nostalgia covers that, and then it makes it so good, and you love it so much.
You do,
you know what I mean?
Right. It feels good.
It's just an interesting conversation. Nostalgia's so big right now, and so I wanted to pose the tension. I feel like we say that word a lot on this podcast, but how can nostalgia be good and bad? So I want to go there for just a minute, as we're not going to talk too much longer because we spent a while doing the recap.
Sure.
But how can nostalgia be good? So let's start there. We've already shared some things. I can see you kind of lighting up, talking about these things you remember and these memories you have. So how can nostalgia be a good thing?
Well, I think the general connotation of the word is good. I think being nostalgic, I think it can, because it brings back memories that make you feel good, which I'm sure it's releasing endorphins into your body that make you happy. And those emotions that God gave us are the things that I think make life really joyful. I think that that's an obvious reason because of how it makes us feel. I think it can be good because then we can also remember things that mattered in the past. I think sometimes we can get so busy with our lives and running at the next thing that we sometimes forget how many good things have happened in our lives, especially when life's hard. Like, I think that is maybe one of the best benefits of having a record, even on social media, of your own stuff, because you're like, wait a minute, everything's so difficult right now, but look at all the great things that have happened in my life, in my family. Yeah. And I think those times, those things that have happened are reminders of God's goodness in our past, and helps us to get focused on the future, even though we may be in a tough time right now. Yeah. So I think those are definitely obvious things. You have some ideas on this?
No, I think that's definitely a big one that I was going to touch on. Is I think nostalgia is beneficial to that point of like, well, man, look at all these awesome things that happened. Look at how far we've come. Even sometimes is like, look at how broke we used to be, or look at these things and look at where we are now. Like you said, God is so good, and it's good to look on those memories and those things, and sometimes even remind yourself, hey, we were so happy back then, or we had all these memories back then, and we didn't need X, Y, and Z, and so maybe we need to shift our priorities. Like I think it can raise all those good feelings.
It can remind us what really matters in life. And I think that those feelings that come from nostalgic things remind us of that. It's not always chasing that next carrot that we think we need. Yeah.
Right. So where or how do you think it could be a negative?
Well, there's a lot of people that live in the past and they don't want to move forward in their life. And you meet people like this sometimes. They're stuck on, well, I liked it when it was this way, and this is the way it should be. I'm like, well, you're still picking a certain decade that maybe was your favorite decade, and you're thinking everything should be like it was in the 80s or the 90s or 70s or whatever it was for you, and not realizing what's right now in front of us. And I think it's dangerous, especially with what we do, because we're trying to reach this current generation of people. And there's a lot of churches that become nostalgic, and then guess what happens?
Right.
They die.
Get stuck, yeah.
Yeah, they get stuck or they die. They dwindle because they're very nostalgic about the way this was. And a lot of churches do have a golden era, like when they got off the ground and they really had their first spurt of growth. And a lot of times they that was what worked and that's what we're going to keep doing. No, things change, methods change. The message doesn't, but the way you present it and what you do to reach people. So I think in a church world, I don't know if you were going to the church world, but that's where I am. We are right now. So I think you can get so nostalgic that you miss out on opportunities because you're not understanding what there is available today.
Yeah, I would agree. I think just as easy as it is to look back into the past, look over the 29 other episodes we've done, whatever it is, as easy as it is to look at those things and think, man, the first episode we edited way too long and we didn't know our system yet, and now we have it all figured out. Like, as easy as it is to look back and see the good, it's also really easy to look back and say, I don't know if I'll ever be that happy again. I don't know if I'll ever have moments like that again. I don't know if I'll ever experience something that awesome again. And even though really good things might be happening right now, today, or in the future, you're not going to see any of those things because you've kind of built this like cage of nostalgia of like, well, I'm just going to live in the things I've done and the things that were good at one point, and I can't see anything ever topping that. So I don't know.
That's a good one. And you're probably too young to ask this question too, but I might ask you because I'll just answer it for myself first. I think I can lean on the side of not being nostalgic enough. I think I'm always about what's next. I'm always looking at my calendar. I'm looking, okay, what's the next for the team I coach? What's next for the church? What's next trip that our family's going on? And I don't go back and look at pictures enough. I don't go back and talk. When I do, it's like so great to talk about the memories, but I think I'm always thinking forward. Like sometimes people are like, man, that was great what you did in the church. Remember when we had this and that? And I'm like, I'm thinking about what we're doing next year. And I care more. I feel like I care so much more about that. I'm always thinking about those things more than I'm thinking about past things. Do you?
Yeah, no, I would say that I'm the same way. I think maybe just because of my age, like you said, but yeah, I would say that I'd probably lean more towards what's next. How is this going to be better?
Right.
Like that's kind of my mindset. But I
Right.
do think there's a lot of people that are stuck in the fact of
Yeah.
it'll never be better because of what I experienced.
Yeah,
I do think that's
I
real.
believe it's going to be better.
Yeah.
I keep believing. I mean, our best, and like I remember one pastor I worked for, and when I was a youth pastor, and he had the gift of vision and talking about it in a good way, and he always said, no matter what, our best days are coming. Our best days are ahead. Our best days are ahead. He believed it. Like, and I believe the best days for Sycamore Creek are ahead. The best days for my family are ahead. I mean, physically, I know I'm getting older, so I know that my best days physically are probably not ahead. That's frustrating. But I think about things in life, and I just keep believing the best is yet to come, and I keep looking forward to that. But I don't know. As soon as I get done, like a Sunday, I'm immediately thinking about next week. What's next? What's next? What's next? And that's the kind of person I am. Not everybody's wired that way. And some people are just too nostalgic and always want to talk about the past,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's, as we bring this conversation to a close, let's speak to each of those groups. Let's give like one takeaway to each group. So for the first group, the people that are so trapped by nostalgia in the past and the things that have already happened that it's robbing them of what could happen. It's taking away of what they could experience in the future or the good things that are happening every single day. What would you say to those people who are maybe in that camp of like, oh man, the days behind me, my childhood, my first job, my whatever was so much better than this. And I don't know how to see anything good because it's never going to be like that. How do we get those people to maybe move out of this cage of nostalgia?
Yeah, that's a complicated question in some ways because each person's different. And they may be in that cage that you're calling it because of a trauma that happened. If you... there's people like the number one thing that is traumatic is losing a loved one, losing a spouse or a child, or losing a parent young. You can get trapped because of that, and the memories you have, you're not going to be able to make more with that person. So it's easy for people that have something tragic like that happen to them to get stuck and not move forward and be nostalgic, and you don't want to rush that process of grief. That's one reason. But I guess we're not really talking about those people particularly. We're talking about in general people that just like to talk about the past. How do we get those people to move forward? That's a good question.
Yeah.
I'm struggling.
That's a big question.
I'm struggling on that because some of it's just so personality driven, and we always think, well, people can change. I don't know. There's some people I meet like, they're stuck, and are they ever going to change? And not that it's all bad and everything that you do with nostalgia is bad. I guess the question is, are you moving forward in your faith? Are you moving forward in your walk with God, or are you stuck? Well, I've learned enough. I'm saved. I'm baptized. I'm going to heaven when I die. I don't really need it to grow anymore. I know most of the Bible stories. If you're stuck, if you're not moving forward in your faith, that's a problem.
Right.
So I think you can get nostalgic about all of it, like about your faith, about your relationships, and then everything gets kind of stale.
Yeah, like we all have that first moment maybe we had at a summer camp or a youth group where it's like the first time we felt God, or maybe as an adult first time coming to church, and oh my gosh, this is so amazing, and I want to give my life to Jesus and all those things. And then sometimes in the middle of the trenches of not feeling like we're really on fire for God and we're just kind of going through the motions, we can look at those moments and be like, I don't think I'll ever feel God like that again. I've heard that before.
I know. Let me interject here. There's two families that are new to our church that have been coming recently and regularly, have two different churches they came from, but they both told me similar things. One that you talked to yesterday too, they said, I get to Thursday and all I'm thinking about is I can't wait till Sunday now. And they said, I haven't felt like that. I can't remember. And they went to another church for years and they said, I never remember feeling like the anticipation of Sunday's coming. I can't wait to get to church and enjoy the music, hear the message, and they just can't wait. And then the other one, they said they had been at the same church for 18 years. And they said it had gotten so stale. They weren't growing. Their kids weren't growing. And they just had gotten, it was kind of nostalgic. Like, this is where we go. And I'm not saying people should hop around to different churches, but if you're not growing and
if
your
that's your
family's
reason for
just
staying,
being there because this is where we've always gone. This is what we've always been.
Yeah.
But maybe, God saying be somewhere where it's alive and where your family's growing and you're excited to go.
Right.
and grow in your faith. And see, I think that's a danger in nostalgia. Just, well, this is where, we grew up in this denomination, so we'll always go to this church. And that's very dangerous. And I think, and I'm encouraged when I hear people breaking free from that. And realizing, hey man, there's a lot to look forward to in life.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I don't really have anything to add to that. I think that's awesome. I think, if your mindset for the things you do just become, well, we've always done it, or, well, I guess we'll just keep doing it. Like, then you might be stuck in this thing of like, well, it's never going to be better than it was, or it's never going to be better than this. So whatever. Yeah. And maybe maybe this conversation will help you just kind of to break whatever that is and say, man, actually, there's a saying and a lyric we say all the time. If God's not dead, or no, God's not dead. If you're not dead, then God's not done. Right. And maybe you need to have that in the back of your mind of like, well, like this whole trap and cage of nostalgia, like maybe I need to break out of it because there is new things to experience and there's new ways to, you've never arrived. Yes, you're never going to arrive.
That's right. I get people in my life that I love dearly that are stuck in some of that. And it's just kind of like, okay. I mean, tradition, nostalgia kind of can go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I think there's nothing wrong with tradition, but I think sometimes like, man, you're missing out on some exciting things in your life by just doing things the same way all the time.
Yeah. So then let's really, really quickly touch on the people who aren't focused on the past enough. And so like you said, you're always ready for the next thing. Sunday's over. What's next? Let's keep going. What maybe purpose can nostalgia serve for people who are in that boat?
I think I hit on it a little bit already. Just the reminders of God's goodness in your life. I think that's good. And to see, how God's worked in ways throughout your life, maybe teaching you a little bit more patience when things aren't going your way as you're pressing forward into the future, and maybe appreciation more and thankfulness, gratitude for other things that people have done for you. Yeah. Looking back, and I hate that it takes sometimes sad events, tragic events of, losing a grandma or losing a loved one. Then we start looking at pictures, and then we start talking about the stories. I mean, like we lost a dear friend recently, Chris, and just a wonderful, amazing Christian man, one of 10 children. And being at his, being able to do his service was a blessing in the fact that it was just honoring him. But what I was thinking about was, afterwards, and there was like a family celebration of life, and one of 10, all these siblings and their spouses and cousins and nieces, nephews sharing stories. It's like, I wish he could have heard all those, because it was just a blessing to hear about them. And like, that is awesome, but let's do that while we can. And let's talk about memories. That's those of us that are always pushing forward. Let's like talk about memories a little bit more and enjoy the funny things that happened in the past. And I know, I'm coaching my youngest son now, baseball. My older son, Zach, he's 28. I coached him all these years too. And sometimes we'll talk about a funny thing that happened and the details of when he was 15 years old. And that's nostalgic and it's fun and it gives you that good feeling. So I think it's a balance. So those people that are always this and not looking back, do that. And especially I think it speaks to your older generations, and if you're young, if you're your age, when you do that with your parents or your grandparents or whomever in your life, that means a lot to them to be nostalgic.
That's a good way to end. I think it just, if we can get into this practice of sometimes looking back, seeing what God has done so that we can move forward. I think it's this kind of goes hand in hand of, hey, if I can look back and see what God has done leading up to this point, well, then God's not done with me because I still have breath in my lungs. So let me look forward and keep going. And I just smacked the TV. And so, I think it's a mixture of both. Any other closing thoughts you have on this conversation of where we've been as a podcast so far, and sometimes the dangers of nostalgia?
I mean, maybe we should close it out by just remembering what it's all about, that Romans 8:28, that God works together for our good in all things. And that really is what we're talking about. If we look back, the in all things idea is that God is working in all things in our past, leading us to where we have to see before us in our future, whatever God has for us. And so I think seeing God in all things is what we're all about, is what this podcast has been all about, and what it will continue to be about. So, yeah.
So there you go.
There you go.
Thank you so much for listening or watching. Let us know what you thought of this conversation and what you thought of the conversations we've had up until this point. And let us know guests, topics, questions, things you want us to dive into in season 3, because it's coming in a couple months and we want to make it the best one yet. We want to keep moving forward and keep making it more of what you want to listen to. So let us know what you thought of every conversation we've had so far, of ways to make it better, and we will see you sometime soon.
Yes.
On the In All Things podcast.
Yes.
Thank you so much. This has been a wrap on season 2.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the In All Things podcast. Our challenge for you today is to send this episode to one person. Seriously, think of somebody right now that could use this conversation and send it to them. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic ideas, please send them to podcast@sycamorecreek.org, and make sure you follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Sycamore Creek Church so that you can always see what's going on in our world. If this conversation helped you at all, make sure you share it, leave a review, and subscribe so that you don't miss out on a single episode. We love you, God loves you, and we'll see you next week on the In All Things podcast.